Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you to my contest gala. I have three special guests joining me. They shouldn't really need any introduction, but we have Dan, Adam, and Greg. Now,
Whoops. Sorry.
no problem. So, as you know, I'm running a contest and I'm going to do the drawing this evening. The winner will get this 1906 Fan Craze Jack Taylor and a PSA 7 for you number-loving people. And Jack Taylor here holds the record. He had 187 consecutive complete games pitched. What do you guys think? Will that ever be broken? So my VR contest was, after being elected hobby president, to share your ideas on what you would do to improve the hobby. And so we want to discuss those. We watched all the videos and got all the ideas, and we want to kick around some ideas and discuss everything that was thrown out there. And Adam and Greg, you both had really great ideas, and I want to talk about those. And a little bit later, we'll let some people join. A little bit later, we will do the drawing. So that's what I have. So Dan, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well, John. Again, congratulations on your victory. Well earned and much deserved. And I'm happy to have contributed several hundred votes to it. So good for you.
Thank you. Greg, what's going on? We have a lot of the country covered here. We have the Southwest, California, New York City. Yeah. Greg, how are things in California?
They're good. It's raining today, which we don't get a lot of rain anymore. So that's been okay, I suppose. But yeah, I'm excited. I took some notes, watched some videos. There were some very good ideas out there. So I'm excited to share a couple that stood out to me. And I'm excited to do it with you three guys. That's for darn sure.
Fantastic. Adam, how's it going?
It's not good. Out here in Arizona, I've been looking for drones, and we're like the only state that doesn't have drones right now. I'm kind of insulted. I feel left out here. What's going on?
Yeah, I was a little late jumping on because I had a press conference because there's all these drones outside my house trying to get pictures of my collection. Now that I'm hobby president.
Well, you're not yet, right? So it's January 20th. You're president-elect. Okay.
That's right.
All right.
So I noticed a few common themes. Dan, I know you did too. You can mention any I might have missed, but the ones that really stood out to me are, number one, the prices of modern boxes, of new boxes, frustration with, and of course, everybody that did this are coming from the vintage realm, and so that's important to note. A lot of frustration with investing and gambling aspect of the hobby. Too many card issues, like way too many. And the other thing was generic relics. How nowadays, there's no specifics on it. You don't know what you're getting. So those are pretty much the common themes that I wanted to start out discussing. And Dan, you may have a couple to add to that.
Yeah, the grading accuracy is obviously an issue. I know, John, you don't care about the numbers, but not only the numbers, but also like the identification of the cards, and I'll show off some of those later on. People were talking about cheaper products, streamlining products, like not like 100 and somebody talked about. I think it was Manny Machado. It's like 1,000 rookie cards or something. Getting kids involved was actually mentioned a bunch of different times, which I was happy to hear. So yeah, those are a few more.
Greg, what was your takeaway?
That grading accuracy, but a lot of people were talking about the gambling aspect. How the modern hobby is no longer about card collecting; it's about trying to pull the Wonka bar with the golden ticket inside, and that as a result, a lot of kids don't know a lot about cards or players or anything anymore. They just know they want the big hit, and if they don't get it, everything goes in the garbage can. So that was a common theme that definitely, I mean, if there was a way we could do something about that, but at the same time, it's like fractional ownership when a box is $1,000 and you don't have $1,000 to buy a box, then the only way to get in is a break. So it's almost like they're
Yeah.
feeding that by making it so expensive. They're creating that. And so I don't think that's a good thing, but that was definitely common too.
Well, that's a great point. And I remember the first time I heard, uh, so people were appalled because back in the early 2000s, this actually started when they started with the relic cards and the autograph cards, where guys would be in the shop, cracking open packs, and just literally throwing them in the garbage, other than the hits. So this has been going on for a long time. It's just like 100-fold now compared to then.
Yeah.
And of course, we didn't have nearly as many products either. Adam, what are your thoughts overall?
Well, a lot of what I said, a lot of it was focused on the ultra modern stuff. So the new products coming out. And I also think there's an issue too with not just the new products, but really with the two companies that run the hobby right now, Fanatics and PSA. And, PSA's parent company is called Collectors. And Fanatics, they bought PWCC and renamed it Fanatics Collect. But for me, I think one of the biggest issues is both of those companies focus on the collector second and the other audience first. I think a lot of it comes down to that. If they change that around, I think it would not only help the hobby, but I think it would make them more money in the long run. Maybe not the short term, but long term, they would make more money.
Yeah. So I wanted to, well, you know what, before I do that, Dan, you have something on your mind. You want to talk about the grading accuracy, and you have a sample there.
Yeah, I did pull out two cards. I've shown these before, but they just pissed me off so much that I want to show them again. So this isn't on SGC. PSA does the same thing. This player on this beautiful card is not, as he said on the flip, Harry McIntyre. It's actually Maddie McIntyre. And they screw this up every single time. Harry McIntyre was a pitcher in the National League. Maddie McIntyre is an important person in the, not only in the hobby, but in baseball history, because he's the guy that turned Ty Cobb into an asshole by being an asshole to him when he was 19 years old. So Maddie McIntyre. And of course, the greatest thing about this is the hair. I don't know how you can mess it up with the hair. So it's not like they mixed up two like generic players. Like, these are important players. This is the other one that pisses me off. This is a 1927 York Caramels Type 2. The problem is Type 2 is 1928. And SGC should know that, not only because I wrote a little thing in there with it to say, look, this is Type 2 1928, but also on the back of the card, it says 1928. So it's like, this is the kind of stuff that pisses me off. So if I had done a VR, and I don't really do VRs, John, except I've done one, and it was also to you. But this one, I would have talked about grading accuracy. But my favorite video, and I'm not doing this because he's on the panel. Believe me, my favorite video in this whole thing was Adam's. And there were two things that he said that I thought were really important. One was the dilution, dilution, dilution of product. And John, you mentioned that before. It's the base cards have become garbage. And to me, that's amazing. I'm a vintage collector. All I own are base cards. I mean, there's no such thing as parallel in the 1930s for the most part, I mean, there's oddball, sorry. But, for the most part, it's all base cards. So throwing out base cards to me is like completely like insane. And the other thing that Adam mentioned was gambling. He talked about gambling and making that the centerpiece of the modern product and the modern hobby. And to me, like, that's just insanity. You're turning kids into little gamblers. And, and when we were kids, we opened packs looking for the players that we wanted. I wanted the Yankees and the Mets, and you wanted the Pirates. And I mean, we're looking for particular players, and that's kind of gambling, but not to the point where it is now, where you're literally throwing out everything that isn't like some, super rare parallel or autograph or whatever. So those are the things that I thought. So I really enjoyed almost all of these videos. To me, were, let me say all of them, because everybody put an effort into it. But a lot of these videos gave me a lot to think about. The other one was RJ. I don't know RJ, but RJ really put together a nice video.
Yeah.
And Aaron from Value Vintage Cards talked about a couple of things that I thought were cool. He was talking about community and de-emphasizing calling people lurkers, making community like Greg has done, which is to bring people in to contribute. And he also talked about shill bidding, which we can get into later on if you want.
Okay. Well, that's your first part there. Since you brought up Adam, that's a good segue. Adam, I know you talked about the parallels and how they should all be numbered, because we have so many of those. You want to talk about what you talked about in your video there?
Yeah, I just think that the card companies, I mean, mainly Topps and Panini, but it's going to be Topps. I think it's kind of they're insulting collectors right now with what they put out. I mean, it's like, oh, hey, if we just put out 50 different parallels, they're going to think they're getting hits. I mean, anyone who's been in it now knows now, like, hey, this one is a parallel, but it's not a hit. They should have just made more base cards. And then, that's a whole other thing of how they could manufacture value in the collector's eyes of base cards with certain things that they're doing, like buybacks, and some might be against that. But, I think you have to somehow, some way make the base cards desirable. If you have to create that at first, then maybe you have to create that. But the problem with the too many parallels is, I like parallels, but even the good ones are getting, in my opinion, diluted. It's not as special when you hit that gold or you hit that the black or whatever the cool parallels are. I feel like they get diluted by the other ones that just are unnecessary. Just, you can make the same amount of cards, just make them more base cards, and I think that way, at least the parallels will, for the people that just want the hit, at least you'll have hits. Right now, it's, for me, if there's too many hits, then there's no hits, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I mean, I've pretty much stopped buying boxes because you just don't get anything. I could just go on eBay and buy the cards I want for far less, because the chances of getting these hits has just gone down so dramatically. Why do you guys think that is?
Well, I think it has to do with what Adam just said. We look at Adam and we think he's just a pretty face, but he actually is pretty smart. And when everything is a hit, nothing is a hit, like you just said. So it's like, you go to Target and you buy a hanger box and you get like 2 pinks and like every one or whatever. And it's like, oh, I got a parallel. It's like, it's not really a parallel because there's like gazillions of those. So what is the desired one? And now it's even like sometimes the different colors, they even clash with the color on the card. And so you get, a guy with an orange uniform on, and he's got a green parallel, which is supposed to be out of 99, and that's supposed to be a great hit, but it doesn't even look good. It's like the one with the orange is going to look better with, a black or just a silver or whatever. So I think it goes back to kind of what Adam was saying, is it's just nothing is a hit when everything's a hit. And these kids are all programmed that it has to be the RPA of the prospect. And then that's the other thing, is even the hits and the parallels of the big names, those aren't even as desired as the hits and the parallels of the prospect who's never even played. I mean, Jackson Holiday, he's not done well. Will he probably do? He probably will be good. I don't know. But so far he's done nothing. But still, you pull his parallel, and that's the hit. It's not as good to get an Aaron Judge or a Shohei hit as a Jackson Holiday. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, that's always gone on where we chased the up and coming prospect and they didn't. It may or may not have panned out. That's gone on. It's just 100,000 fold now, what people are paying for those, right? Compared to even 10, 20 years ago. I remember when LeBron came out, you could sell his stuff for $600-700, back then, which was a lot of money for a card back then. But yeah, it's just like 100,000 times more today with a lot of prospects that are not panning out, especially quarterbacks. Now, one of the themes.
Let me
Oh,
throw
go
one
ahead.
thing out there for you, John. You've asked me to keep an eye on the chat. The chat is on fire right now. You got some heavy hitters in here. My boy Mookie's asking about the Juan Soto discussion, which we're gonna snuff that out. A lot of guys are in there. We got 65 people are watching right now, so I'm just kind of
Nice.
keeping an eye. I'm doing my homework here.
Drew's got a comment
Nice.
where he says that he went to his LCS and there was a box filled with hits and they were all $1 a piece. So, your hits are
To Adam's point.
Exactly.
Yeah, that brings us to something that I think a few people said, and that's the generic relics.
Oh, yeah.
Relics used to be something special, and sometimes they would say, specifically what they were from, and now it says, they're not from any special game or thing, right? And we know that these rookies just put the shirt on, take it back off, put a shirt on, take it back off, in a ballroom somewhere or an office. It's not even game used, and they don't even pretend it's game used. I mean, they tell you that. What do you think about these modern relics? Because personally, I used to love to collect them, but I have like zero interest anymore.
Again, it's an insult. It's a complete insult.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually heard people say, "I'd rather have a sick, multicolored patch, than that's not game used or not even player worn. It's just from Dick's Sporting Goods on my card than a game used, like a napkin patch." I'm like, if it's not used or worn by the player, what the heck's the point of the thing on the card? Well, I don't understand it at all. It makes zero sense to me. And
it's
again,
like the Topps anniversary medallion or something that nobody cares about.
Why is it on the player's card if he never had anything to do with it? What is the point? I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they do that with like Yankee Stadium bunting, and they'll have a player. They do that with Josh Gibson cards. It'll be like a seat from Forbes Field. That has nothing to do with Josh Gibson.
At least
it's a cool relic, but
yeah.
I mean, it has nothing to do with that specific player.
But like it's like a jersey of the Celtics jersey, and it's a Jason Tatum card, and it says, "This is not affiliated with Jason Tatum." Basically, okay,
right?
Why is it on a Jason Tatum card?
Well, yeah, that's one. Oh,
Mike Petty from the Peanut Gallery says, "Plug your ears, Keegan," who is also in the chat. He says, "Frankly, I'd rather have bong hits. At least you get something." So there's that.
Well, yeah, John, you and I have had text conversations about this. I'm anti-relic to the nth degree. I don't understand the concept, especially when it comes to vintage stuff. Why are you tearing up like Jackie Robinson's pants into like 100 pieces to put inside a baseball card? The relic is only important when it's a full relic. To me, I don't know.
Well, let me speak to that a little bit, because when they first came out with this, I was appalled like you. You're going to take a Babe Ruth bat and cut it up? Like, that's just that's insane to me. But then I thought about it. Now, who can buy a Babe Ruth bat? Wealthy people.
Yeah.
But if you cut it up and put it in a card, I mean, your average little kid can own a piece of Babe Ruth's bat that they could never otherwise own. So I kind of changed my tune on it, assuming it's not his called shot bat or a super significant bat or uniform, and there's plenty of them.
Why don't we do that with all the Ty Cobb T206s? We'll just cut them into tiny little chunks and give them out to everybody. so
Okay.
everybody can have a Tyke Hob. I mean, why not? I mean, the point, a Babe Ruth bat is $1 million bat. The ruby slippers from Wizard of Oz are $32 million. I can't afford it. I'm never going to own it. There's a lot of stuff I'm never going to own. I accept that.
Yeah.
So why chop it up so that you're ruining the product, essentially? And this is what you thought 20 years ago. You were right 20 years ago, in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from.
But I think there is
Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, there is a big part of the hobby, and a lot of them are younger, that do love the idea of, hey, I could get a Juan Soto bat piece or jersey piece within the card. I understand that. I mean, it's not for everyone, but if you're trying to improve the hobby, if you are going to make those, you can make less of them, but the ones you do put out, at least make them like player worn or game used. I mean, the other stuff, just get rid of it.
I frankly would rather them pull a shirt off the rack at Dick's Sporting Goods and chop that up and put that in cards and say, kids, here you go.
When it comes to relics, you can't really compare Babe Ruth's bats with Juan Soto's. Juan Soto will have 1,000 of them, nothing special, where there may only be a handful of Babe Ruth or, a few Joe Jackson.
Yeah. Yep.
Greg, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I can see both sides, and I remember you did a whole video on this, John, and you went through your evolution of, you used to not like it, now you get it because it's like fractional ownership. I thought it was a good video. When Dan makes his snarky comments, though, it's hard to disagree with that. My brother, when they first started doing this, it was about 25 years ago, and I remember. There was Upper Deck did a Yankee Legends set. Like it wasn't even like a set. It was just like you could buy boxes, and they were all Yankee Legends, and there were lots of relics and stuff in there. And my brother bought a couple boxes of it, and he got a Babe Ruth bat piece. Now the Babe Ruth bat piece, it wasn't just like a square of it. It was they laser cut the Yankee logo. So the bat piece is the Yankee NY logo. Well, the problem with that is, like, wood is an organic substance, and so it expands and contracts, and it gets brittle. And so he had the card on like a shelf in like a case, and it cracked and it snapped it. So now it's in like two pieces. So and he didn't even do anything. It's not like he dropped it or something. So he's got this Babe Ruth bat piece where like the Y, part of the Y is like broken off. And it's like, what are we doing? So then you hear things like that and you're like, well, that's not good. So I'm torn on it. I can definitely see both sides though.
I think the biggest problem right now for collectors is with the new products is that I don't know the numbers, but one of the biggest customer for Topps and these companies is the breaking companies, right? So we're talking about, when you're opening out of packs, breaking companies want there to be as many fake hits as possible, so that when they open a box on camera, if you get one parallel that's numbered out of that whole box and the rest are all base cards, it's not going to be as exciting of a break, and they're not going to be able to sell as many spots. But if they can have the pink and the camo and the zebra, at least they can, here's a parallel, that's a hit. So it's more, I think maybe they should make products specifically for breaking and then other products for collectors. Maybe that would.
I want to go a step further than that, Adam, because I think you're right, but I think it goes more. I think that the manufacturers absolutely love, and I mean love, breaking companies because it's free advertising. Yep. You go on Backyard Breaks on Prism release day, and they're opening Prism and showing the cards and talking about how great they are. I mean, it's like an infomercial. So not only did they just sell a crap ton of it to Backyard Breaks, but in addition to that, they're a commercial with thousands and thousands of people watching who now want to go buy it. So there's nothing that the manufacturer likes more than breaking channels and streamers and all that. I mean, they freaking just kill it from that.
Well, the rumor in the hobby, Adam, is that they do make different product for breakers. They make breakers with bigger hits than they
they put the hits in there. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but those are good points. And so you think that they make the new product specifically with breakers in mind? Do you think they're getting input from breakers and no input from the collectors?
Yeah, and I think the breakers, they don't really have a vested interest if that purple zebra camo card goes down by 95% after they send it off. All they care about is, hey, we sold out our break, because Topps Chrome has all these hits, and there's not really hits. They're just fake hits, basically, most of them at least.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up this one comment. Oh, it was your buddy Greg, Brent Richards.
Mhm.
He talked about having perforated packages to prevent repackaging. Did you guys ever get a repackaged pack? I have.
No.
You mean a wax
mean-
pack that had been opened and then resealed?
Yes.
Like those?
It happened to me twice, and I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
They had taken out the new cards and they put in a bunch of junk wax era.
No, I've never had that.
Commons.
Never had that.
I had it happen to me twice. It's never happened to any of you?
No.
I don't buy wax.
It
'cause I
happened to
don't
me
hit
at
anything.
Target.
Okay.
Oh,
At Target?
Huh.
At Target, yeah.
Hmm.
So somebody was going in there, getting these, and then putting them back. I guess stealing them right there, probably.
Yeah.
They would have to. You're not going to go back into the store and just put it up there for fun, or maybe you are. I don't know. But I could not tell. And here's the thing. After it happened to me the first time, the second time, I looked for it and I couldn't tell. So I thought that was a good suggestion if you're going to sell open packs. I'm sure, it doesn't happen with boxes, but if you're going to sell open packs like they do at Target, I thought that was a good point. And I loved Brent's analogy. So he's basically saying that, in the hobby today, there's a lot of, unscrupulous people, a lot of stupid things that go on. We see it all the time. We make videos showing, scammers on eBay or whatever. And his analogy was this. He said, if you go out, you never golfed before, and you go out and you're missing the ball and you're shanking the ball and it's going in the water and you're scoring, 130. Well, how likely are you to continue to go back and get your head pounded in like that? And we are creating a hobby for a lot of new people coming in where that same thing's happening. Like if you get ripped off, if you're buying boxes and getting nothing and you feel like you're throwing your money away, then how long are you going to stay in the hobby? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why one of my favorite comments was Ken's Cardboard. He said, we need a sheriff. We need like a federal marshal to go around and get all those unscrupulous people and also crack down on all that stuff. I thought that was a fun idea. There's no doubt about it that, if you go to Vegas when you're 21 and you pull the slot machine 40 times and every single time you get nothing and you're completely out of money, you go back the next day and the same thing happens, you're pretty much burned from doing a slot machine for the rest of your life. If you hit once that rush is going to hook you. But if you don't get the hit, then you're done. And you just go, I'm never doing that. That is garbage. And that's what's happening right now is, 5 or 10% of people get the hits. And then 90 to 95% are getting garbage. And it's so expensive. It's a lot of money. So parents are walking away. And that's been the whole thing with Burbank Sports Cards. Is the guy down there says, Rob or whatever his name is, he says, you can't have negative experience after negative experience. You have to have dollar boxes. You have to have $5 boxes because you have to have some sort of, I walked away and I got this cool thing and you have a positive experience. You're going to come back. And that's what Orlando said. Orlando said in his video, get people out of breaking and get them into dollar boxes because they'll learn about cards. They'll get cards of the players that they like. And they'll have a positive interaction, and there's value in there too. So you can actually find some treasures in those boxes. I thought that was a good point.
Yeah, so you hit on it. I mean, there's no question, no doubt about it, that the hobby is a lottery now with modern cards. I mean, look at the chase for the one of one Paul Skeens, and whoever pulls that's an instant millionaire, right? Or Wemby or whoever. All these one of ones, these big cards. What do you think about that? Is that good or bad for the hobby?
Well, I think, I mean, that's always been I mean, not always, but I mean, in 1992 or one, I was opening up Score looking for the Mickey Mantle autographs. I never got one. That didn't stop me from ever collecting cards again. I never got a hit. In fact, my whole life, I probably never, I don't think I've ever hit like a big card out of a pack or anything, but I'm here now. So I think, and it's the same thing with gambling. Like people usually lose on scratch tickets, but a lot of people buy them. I'll buy a scratch ticket here and there just for fun. I don't expect to win. So I don't think you have to get all these hits. I just think there's too many products. There's too many parallels. It's too confusing. I mean, the whole idea is to improve the hobby, to grow the hobby. You got to get new people in it. It's just too hard to come into it now. You go to Target. I don't even know I took my nephew to a card shop here in Arizona earlier this year. And I was like, let's go in. We'll look for some Prism packs or a pack of Prism or something. Cause he knew Prism. That's the big brand for football and basketball. And then we couldn't even get, we only sell those by the box, or you got to get into a break. So like the packs they had were all these crappy brands that we've never even heard of. So I don't know. It's just, it's a terrible entry point, the way they've set this whole system up right now.
Yeah. I mean, like my Walmart or Target, first of all, during the COVID boom, when all that craziness was happening, they stopped carrying them. They just started carrying them again, finally, a few years later. And it's nothing but the small, products that, nobody really chases after.
Yep.
It's nothing exciting there. And when they would have, any Prism or anything, they're gone. Like there's no way. I have no prayer of buying those. And it was nice at Target. I can't remember. Walmart too, where you could buy individual packs. But I never trust buying individual packs anymore because I feel like they're searched. They've been doing that forever. Are you comfortable buying individual packs? Do you think you'd get a hit out of any?
Maybe. I mean, you can. I think, especially with some of these, like, if it's like National Treasures, or I don't know, they don't even sell those by the pack. But I think you do have to have some of that, if you want to have good experiences. I mean, if it's a tangible thing, you can go with your kid or whoever, and kids together, they open packs. I mean, that's what we did, and it obviously caught on. It created great memories and experiences. Even if you didn't get what you were looking for, it was still fun opening up whatever. If you can't open up, if the only way you can get cards is buying singles or getting into a break, I feel like that's not going to be as sticky in the future. Like we all came back, we all came back. I don't think they're creating an environment where a lot of people are going to come back 20 years from now.
I could pretty much guarantee that most of the packs you would buy on eBay, like if you buy a box and it's guaranteed 2 hits, as soon as they get those hits, those packs are being sold on eBay because they know there's no more hits coming. Right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I want to read a comment that Mark Dodgers Card said in the chat, which I thought was fantastic. He said, if cards are being sold as an investment, but it's based on gambling, that's a terrible experience. If there's periodic gambling within a collecting mentality, it's different. But the problem is it's the former. I mean, it is. It's like this is an investment, but it's gambling. It's not gambling that might pay off. It's got it backwards, and that's going to drive people away, especially when we're training all these kids to not only be addicts to their phones, but they're now addicts to gambling. Like, what are we doing? Like, it's literally gambling. Like you have to be, 18 or 21 or whatever it is to buy one of those scratch offs that you were talking about, Adam. The other issue that with what you were saying is when we were buying those score packs or whatever, those packs were like $0.25 each, maybe 50 cents. It wasn't $1,200 for a pack, which they just put in a box so they could call it a half a case. It was like
Yeah.
50 cents. It was money you'd find in the seat cushions. It wasn't money that you used to pay the electric bill.
True.
You don't want to
Yeah,
know
I
what
mean,
it cost when I was a kid. My first year of collecting was 1970. Packs were 12 cents. Literally couch cushion money.
What's
Yeah,
that
they were a
equal to
quarter
now,
when I
though,
was
with
growing up.
inflation? 12 cents in 2024 is what? What would that be inflation-wise?
I think, as Craig said, it's $12,000 for a national treasures. A lot of inflation.
With inflation, it might be 12 billion today by today's dollars. You know? But Adam, you hit on something good, and what that is like an entry point, for young people to get in a fun way. They're not spending a lot of money, because it's like you didn't just go out and buy your 52 Mickey Mantle when you were a kid. Like, you grew into that. We all grow in to the cards we're buying today, and that all started with buying cards with next to no money, and developing that love for the hobby.
And there's no more iconic cards, really, especially with baseball, because they've done so many photo variations, and there's just so much dilution again that we've lost the iconic card. Even if it's a base card, it's iconic. Like, hey, I know that card. I've seen it a bunch of times, and I'm looking for that card. You
Yeah.
get it. We don't even know what we're looking for anymore. Like, unless you're like an expert in this thing, you have no idea what cards are good and what you're looking for. It's crazy.
You hit it on the head. I have no idea what I'm looking for. I mean, I know about the Paul Skeens. That's about it, because it's been publicized. But I was just thinking about this, guys. I was just thinking about this the other day, and that's a good segue. I used to get Beckett Sports Sports. What is it? The Beckett the sports one. They had baseball, hockey, football. I had the one for all the sports. I used to like to get that one. And what they would do, and they would do them on the individual sports for that sport, but the one that had all the sports was all the hot cards. You remember that? And they would list all the hot cards, most of which were rookie cards. Some of them were second or third year cards. Somebody was getting hot, and I would go through there, and it was a way really easily to find out what were the hottest cards in the hobby. For everybody else. Doesn't mean they were necessarily going to be the hottest for me, but at least I got to know what are the desired cards in the hobby, right? Like the SP Derek Jeter, because they might have 5 rookie cards, 10 rookie cards, and I would always pick the wrong one. Mine was never the one that was in that magazine. And Tough Stuff did a similar thing. And today, like, where do you find out? Like you're saying, I have no idea when I open packs what I'm looking for. I have no idea.
Here's the hot cold list from the front of a Beckett.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
The way you find out now is you wait until Jeff Wilson drops his video for the week on the top 5 hottest cards, and he tells you in his Market Movers plug which cards went up the most that week. That's where you find out.
I've been
but let me just interject. The thing with those magazines, they listed the hottest cards, but they weren't the most expensive cards.
True.
If you recall, like, they were the cards that were upticking and people really wanted. But many of, they weren't even close to the most expensive cards.
But
some
again,
of them some of them.
How hard would it be for Topps to get on YouTube or on their social media when a new product comes out? Here's the latest Topps Chrome edition or whatever, and here's the cards you're looking for. Here's the best cards, like a preview, right? They don't do any. As far as I've seen, they don't highlight collectors. I looked at Topps' social media, and it's just a bunch of garbage. There's no, I don't know who's marketing at Topps, but it's crazy. Like, it's so simple, and they don't do any of it. It's crazy. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's like, how do you garner excitement to go chase stuff that you don't even know is in there?
Well, yeah. Why does Jeff Wilson have the biggest YouTube channel in the hobby? Why doesn't Topps? This is crazy. Like, they don't put out any content. It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Diamond Gems 45, that was one of his things. He wants production runs because he has, we have no idea. We have no idea how many of these cards are made, how many inserts. We have no clue. And really what that's doing is allowing PSA to control and tell us what the population is of the bigger cards anyway that people are getting graded. We have no idea how many they're printing of anything, unless they're numbered. But even if they're numbered, okay, is it numbered because of the border color? Do they have an identical card just like it that's not numbered? Upper Deck started doing that crap back in the early 2000s, where they would have two identical cards. One had a number stamp and one didn't. I pulled a LeBron James, and I already had the card, but I had one had a stamp and one didn't. One was numbered, one didn't, but they were identical. And I took that stamped and I sold it for $700, which was a lot of money back then. I couldn't believe it sold for that much.
There's a lot of problems.
Well, one of the ways that I kind of learned who was hot was by paying attention to the game itself. Watching baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a novel concept, watching the actual sport. Yeah. But I actually made money on was it Julio Rodriguez? Is that the guy from the Mariners?
Yes.
Yeah. He was hot a couple of years ago, and then he had a great All-Star game, and then I had a bunch of cards of his and then sold them at a profit. That worked out pretty well. But that's just one guy. But that's the kind of thing. Also, it's based on what city you're in. I mean, different. I worked a show the other day, and people were looking for Mets and Yankees. I mean, we're in New York, so if you're in Pittsburgh, they're going to be looking for, the Pirates, and if you're in Arizona, they're going to be looking for the Diamondbacks, and that kind of thing. So, I mean, I feel like who was the Diamondbacks Rookie of the Year kid?
Corbin Carroll.
Yeah, Carroll
Carroll. Yeah,
super hot for a while.
Yep.
So, I mean, I feel like that's part of it. And a lot of these kids do watch sports. And they have their favorite players. So it's not always the hit. It's the hit that's important to them, I think.
Well, that's the problem. A perfect example. My nephew, he's out here in Arizona, big Corbin Carroll fan. He's like, I want to get a Corbin Carroll rookie card. What do I get? I was like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Which of the 10,000?
We can't answer that question anymore.
No, which is a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah.
You need to RPA and sell it for, 200,000 or nothing.
Right. So I don't know how it's going to translate. I hope we're all around in 25 years where we can look back and say, hey, maybe we were right or maybe we were wrong. None of the people that were in it, the young people, ever wanted to come back because it was not a good experience.
We were talking about the Topps marketing and lack of marketing. I agree. Mookie in the comments says they should do like an Apple style launch, how Apple comes out each year and says, this is what we've got. And they show it for the first time, which is a good idea. The thing that Topps does market well are their Topps Now cards. Their Topps Now cards, they're really good at marketing those because it's instant. It just happened. It's instant gratification. They can put the card up before the game is over. And they do a good job with that. But with their regular old stuff, I think their marketing budget is, let's sell it to the breakers at half MSRP, let them get their cut, and then they're going to do our advertising.
Yeah, the problem with Topps Now is they're like buying a new car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, it goes down in value.
Yeah.
I mean, 99.9% of those are cheaper the day they come out. And some of those print runs are insane.
Yeah, as far as the print runs go, I wrote that down too about Diamond Gems 45. I thought that was a great point. Some of them, like you said, John, you can kind of backwards figure out what the print run is by if the orange parallel out of 100 is 1 in 10,000 packs, and there's this many oranges, you can kind of start to calculate what the print run is, but it's kind of ballparking. But it does feel like, I mean, there are legal rules for like gambling, like there has to be a certain amount of hit return on the slot machine. When I go to the gas station, I hit the pump. They have to make sure a certain amount of gas is actually coming out. There are actual parameters around that, but there's no regulation over what they're doing. It's just the Wild West. And the amount of money that's being spent on it and it still is the Wild West, blows my mind.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I jotted down some notes.
Well, can I throw out
Oh,
one of my favorite comments? One
yeah,
of
go
my
ahead. Go ahead.
favorite suggestions when I went through them, Stuke, and I thought you'd really like this one, John. He said we should come out with a $3 bill. That way, every time you bought a card, it would be one of the $3 bills, since every card is only $3. And
Yeah,
he
that'd be
said
awesome.
that the president to put on the $3 bill would be President Mangini. So just make it so nobody would ever have to have change at card shows, because since every card is $3, you just carry around those and you just trade them for the cards. I thought that was a fantastic idea from Stu.
His thumbnail actually had a mock-up of the of dollar bill, so I thought that was pretty cool. Looked a
Yeah.
little like Monopoly money, but handsome
It was
man and dollar bill. Let me say that.
Stukes is fun. So I wanted to bring up Bader's hobby life. He had made the comment that people only want Hall of Famers today, and I've noticed that myself for several years now. What are your thoughts on that? Why do you think that is?
I was showing Greg when I did my last video all the guys that I PC, and I'd say only about half of them are actually Hall of Famers. I think it's because it's an easy target. You've got a finite list of players that are in the Hall of Fame, and their fame, and they're people chase them, and so to collect them is actually something that makes sense. The problem with being a super broad collector is that I've got guys on this list that, like, some people have never heard of. There's a comment in the comments, I forget who it was, said he and I are the only people that collect Bobby Mercer. So, oh well,
I like Bobby Mercer.
Yeah.
Adam, do you only collect Hall of Famers?
No, man. I bought a Kevin Millar card the other week. I'm buying a lot of Teddy Bruschi cards, even though maybe he should be in the Hall of Fame. Teddy Bruschi, he was a great player, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. No, baseball. I know it's more important in baseball because there's such a history there of I think it's good though, because like you said, it's good to have like guardrails to collect within, and it makes it, like we were saying earlier, sometimes you don't want to have to like spend 20 hours a week trying to figure out how you want to collect. Kind of keep it simple and then make it more fun with the new products. It's just so confusing, and you'd have to literally quit your job to learn about the products that are out now and what's good and what isn't. It's like crazy.
Well, you hit on something. It just makes me laugh. Collecting strategy. Like there are a lot of people that take it like a business. My man John 3D80s kid, he changes his collecting focus like once a week.
Well, I think that people like structure and people want structure. And if you have structure, it keeps us organized in this chaotic world. And I think that what the Hall of Fame player runs does is it kind of it allows you to expand what you do, but expand it in a narrower way. I PC 3 people. I have a book back there. I have a couple of binders back there filled with cards of 3 players: Greg Nettles, Roger Clemens, and Matt Manning, who is currently a AAA player in the Tigers system. None of them are Hall of Famers, but I have by far more cards of those 3 guys, and I get pumped when I get a new one that I don't already have. But I also want to collect other stuff, and I think part of it, because you said, John, why is that? I think part of it, unfortunately, is I think it's the PSA set registry. The PSA set registry went from sets, the 60 set registry versus the 61s. Then they started doing player runs, or the 1952 Hall of Famers. And so many of those set registries are made up of Hall of Famers that people are like, I don't want to build the whole 57 set. but I'll do the 57 Hall of Famers. And so it kind of just the part that's bugging me, and the reason I loved your video today so much, and I shared it out and we texted about it, is because I hate how PSA is controlling everything we do. Like,
They control
that's
everything.
one of the they control everything that we're doing. They control
including what you could sell your cards for,
what they're worth, whether they're good or they're garbage, who to collect and who not to collect, they control everything. And until we can actually break that, until we can break the hobby collectors of just doing whatever they say, we're just their robots, you know. It's like, you know, the Pink Floyd song of, you know, it's just like we're just this assembly line and they just tell us where to go. And until we can say, no, this grade and this grade are not the same, this one is actually better than this one, we're not collecting like fossils of, you know, Jurassic era, you know, species. Like, we're not looking under a microscope and going, is this T-Rex specimen better than that T-Rex specimen? That's not what this is. But they're getting us to think that it is. And that's disappointing.
I think several people actually covered that. One of whom was Dylan, who talked about emphasizing eye appeal, which we've been doing a lot lately. The other one was Aaron, who talked about de-emphasizing grades and making sure that people understand that grades are a guide. They're not the final say. And so you make the final say by whether the card fits your criteria. And I think that eye appeal is becoming something that we really need to concentrate on. And Greg,
but then you could make the argument, why pay PSA then?
Well, I mean, somebody actually,
because here's the thing:
authentication is one thing, right? And the other thing is a guide. So, you know, there's a lot of different cards are different ones, and then some threes look like fives, but generally speaking, they're in the ballpark for the most.
I just want to say something about the authentication thing. Number one, I mean, 99.9999% of cards have never been reproduced.
Right.
And if you can't tell a fake 1972 Topps, I don't know, maybe you're in the wrong hobby. Like, most reproductions are so blatant. Anyway, they have the authentication thing, which sometimes they fail on. Let's be honest. Sometimes they fail on that too.
True, but somebody puts on Facebook up like a vintage card and says, "Is this real?" 50% of the people will say yes, and 50% of the people will say fake. And that to me is like, you can't say for sure that something is real or fake. And I trust SGC to
not from a picture always.
No, that's true. That's true.
Sometimes you can tell immediately.
SGC to do it right. And you know, I buy a lot of raw, low pop count, you know, unpopular, oddball, whatever. So, you know, a lot of times I'm worried about it. And, you know, fortunately, I'm buying it from good dealers, like, you know, Bill Chappell stuff. I've never had I bought a bunch of stuff from him like that. None of it's ever come back fake. So, you know, I feel like I could probably tell, but SGC is better at it than I am, I think.
I totally get that. But let me just throw this out there. Like, most people, they say they want to grade it for a variety of different reasons. But the one I hear mostly is they want to know the card wasn't tampered with and that it's real, right? Those are the two things. So in the era of Kurt's Card Care, we now know that many of these slab cards with numbers have been cleaned, have been trimmed. We know that from Evan Mathis. So we know these things hands down, that, you know, many of the cards that we have are probably cleaned or they have been messed with. They have been. And this has led to more collectors really being okay collecting A cards now, you know, altered cards that are slab altered. And I find it funny, like, if you don't want to buy a raw card because it might be altered, but if you send it to SGC and it comes back an A, you're cool with that.
Whoa. What was that?
How does that happen?
PSA hacked you, John.
What was
Somebody's
that?
shutting me down.
You had
Was that the
fireworks. Was that a drone?
What the heck was that?
Can I respond to that, John? Because
please do. I mean, this is. I wanted you to respond.
Have some very similar, card tastes, and a lot of times an A is the best you're going to do. And so if you come up with a pop 3 card from like 1912, and you just want to know that it's authentic, I don't care half the time I don't care what the grade is, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But
I think that's where vintage collectors and modern collectors differ, right?
Oh yeah.
Because
absolutely.
even though a modern collector cannot tell the difference, and neither can PSA, of a 9 and a 10. I mean, if PSA could tell the difference between a 9 and a 10, you could never crack and resubmit and get a higher grade. Never. But you can. So nobody could tell the difference between a 9 and a 10 in modern cards, right?
I think that makes them more liquid too. If I've got an A and then I get a 1 or a 2 and it's a better copy, I can get rid of that card. I can sell it a lot easier if it's in a slab. And should it be that way? I don't know. Maybe not. But
I agree with that 100%.
Authentic, and not everybody trusts everyone else. So sometimes it makes it liquid, and that's important if you want to move things.
And that's why the grading companies will always control our hobby, no matter what they do. It's just the way it's going to be from here on out. I've accepted that. That's the way it's going to be. Period. They can do whatever they want to do. They control the hobby, like Greg said.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
No, just quickly. I agree. That makes all sense and everything. If PSA does control the hobby like they do, I just wish they would do more. They're doing a lot of they're coming out with new stuff and new innovations, all this stuff, but I don't see them doing a lot for the collecting crowd. A lot of it's just hey, now you can send it to the vault and sell it on eBay, and it's all just getting rid of your cards, selling your cards. You mentioned the registry. They don't do any. The registry's been frozen for years now. They don't. You can't even add new sets. So anyone who does want to do something with the registry, I mean, think about who does the registry. It's collectors, right? You don't see flippers on the registry. They don't care about that. Whether the reason they do the registry, whether it's for ego or whatever the reason, it is collectors. They're collecting.
Yeah.
They might be collecting by the grade, but regardless, they're collecting stuff. PSA, that thing's been frozen, man. They put zero resources into that right now. And all the money they're making, you tell me they can't put some money towards making that registry better for the collectors that want to use it? It's horrible. Sorry.
And you are right. That is for the collectors.
A lot of people in the chat are saying that their power is their power and their lack of competition makes it where they don't have to do anything for us, basically.
Yeah.
Is sort of a theme that's happening in there right now. And it's true. I mean, what's the incentive? What's the incentive to it goes back to where we started at the very beginning. And it's that the hobby right now is about feeding the flipper. It's not about feeding the collector. And everything that PSA is doing right now is in line with helping what the flipper wants. They want to get it graded. They want to get it listed. They want to get it sold as soon as possible. All their efforts are going into that. If they actually cared about the collector, because we just said the collector cares about the registry. The flipper doesn't care about the registry. I mean, how is it possible that we still don't have a universal registry or just an SGC registry? It was July of 2023 when Mike Moynihan interviewed Peter Steinberg at the National, and he asked him, when are you going to have a registry for SGC? And he said, very soon. That was 17 months. No, not 15 months ago. And we still don't have one.
Yeah.
How's that possible? Collectors has the resources to have created a registry for them if they actually cared. But they don't care. They want PSA to stay dominant. They don't want SGC. If you walked into the National The huge PSA booth was right when you walked in. And literally on the opposite corner, as far as you could possibly get from their partner under the same umbrella, was the little SGC booth, as far from PSA as possible. So if collectors cared about the actual collector, then they wouldn't be focusing all their resources on helping the flipper. They would be focusing their resources on the collector.
Yep. They well, I mean, they're a business, and this is the business that they're in, and they do everything to keep the monopoly they have and protect it. I found it funny that the top two auctions were in SGC slabs. When you look at that 9.5 Mickey Mantle and that one Babe Ruth card, and so what does PSA do? They take that Wemby 1 of 1 that is drastically off center and put it in a 10 slab, to make sure that they get that press, right? Because they needed another new big card to sell like that. Because I think the last one that was in a PSA holder that made all kind of noise was that Mike Trout. What are your thoughts on that? You think that Wemby was a 10?
Well, first of all, the Wemby wasn't a 10. The Wemby was pulled about 10 miles from where I'm currently sitting. And the dealer who shouted out Kurt's Card Care in PSA headquarters, I see at a card show about 6 or 7 times a year. And he said, this is what the Sacramento, card community says, is that PSA made them send it back down there after the fact, cracked it, re-looked at it again, and then re-slabbed it again. So PSA was going to desert it, but they supposedly ran a bunch of tests on it. That's what that dealer says.
What kind of tests do you think they run on that?
I don't know.
For real, what kind of test could you run on it?
Probably different types of lights.
Do they have one of those machines from that? Do they have one of those machines from that expert and My Cousin Vinny? That car expert, you remember that?
By the way, I don't even think Wemby's going to be as good as, not to take it into full sports talk, but Wemby for me is just he's okay. I don't see the craze about him, to be honest with you. I don't get it.
Well, he had a fantastic year last year. He was fantastic. I haven't been following him. Is he playing well this year?
Nah, not really. I mean, everyone averages 30 a game now. I think he's averaging 20 points a game. So no.
Mookie says Wendy's is better than Wemby's. So there's that.
Well, I mean, they make so many damn rookie cards of him today that the production runs, it's going to be like the 89 Upper Deck Ken Griffey, where, if it wasn't for the boom, that Ken Griffey card would still sell for $30. And if it wasn't for the people on the PSA, bandwagon that have to have a 10, that card sold for $30 for decades, right? Because they made 10 million of them. And there were rumors they were still making them the following year because it was so popular.
Those are rumors
let's
actually confirmed. Upper Deck
was it
people
confirmed
that, yeah.
Well, I mean, I heard an Upper Deck person say that, but I don't want to come out and say it's true if I don't know for sure it's true. So I certainly heard that.
I don't remember the name of the movie, but it was about a guy. He was like a child actor. And
he did a documentary.
And his father owned the biggest card store in Toronto, and he just his entire youth was about junk wax.
Oh yeah.
And they did a whole bunch of interviews, and one of the interviews was with one of the Upper Deck guys who said, we printed far more than and we printed them the next year and we put them out. So those Griffey cards are out there.
Yeah, that's where I was coming from with that. Because I watched that and I heard him say it, and I was like, well, it's not surprising, right? Yeah. We know there's 10 million of them out there. But it's rare in a 10. It's rare in a 10.5. So that's going to sell for $200 million.
But, it's a great card, and I probably should have one, and I don't. So, I probably should just pick one up, pick up an 8. Right, Greg? For
Yeah, I paid $40 or $43 or something for my 8 the other day. Dylan Double D said in the chat, he's like, I think he's right. It was called the Jack of all trades.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
that's it.
it was like
Yep.
Netflix.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember. I watched it too. Yeah, it was good.
Felt bad.
All right,
for-
let's liven this up with a drawing. What do you think?
There we go.
Yeah, we are
Okay,
at
so on my
87 people watching. 87 people are watching right now.
Nice.
Nice. Thank you all for watching. So on my contest update, I had written out everybody that was entered, and then I cut them into strips and folded them all up many times, and I put them into this beautiful Pittsburgh Crawford's hat.
Nice.
And so I'm going to do a random drawing in a little bit of a different way. So we don't want to go too long. So Dan, pick a number between, I don't know, 3 and 10.
7.
7. Okay, so the 7th name I pull is the winner. All right? That's how I'm going to do it.
All right.
The first one I pulled is... Oh, man, I folded it too many times. Here we go. Lonely Basement Baseball Cards. You are not the father. Number 2.
This has turned into Maury.
It's number 7, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my man Brent Richards. You are not the father.
2 good guys so far, though. I like both those guys a lot.
Number 3. Diamond Gems 45. You are not the father. All right, number 4. I'll stop with that now. Godlike Collectibles. Number 5.
Mike Petty says it's rigged.
Everything's rigged in life. Return to Collecting.
Ah,
Oh, Darren
All
deserved that because he just gave away the best giveaway ever.
That's right. Adam, you got that card. Yeah.
Okay, number 6, and the runner-up. RJ collects sets. And number 7.
For a PSA 7, right? This is a 7 grade card, guys.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I just picked it.
1906 fan craze and a beautiful upside down hockey stick.
Beautiful slab right there.
All right. The winner of my contest is Warren in CLE. Congratulations, Warren.
Good guy. Talk to
Congratulations, Warren. You have this beautiful fan craze, a special player, and a really cool set.
I love the back.
Oh, in the chat, he said just send it to Greg. So I'll get you my
Oh,
address.
okay. No problem, Warren.
I think you're ineligible.
Yeah, this was, I remember years ago when I got my first one from this set, I was so excited. They didn't, they weren't that big of a deal back then because nobody knew what they were. But it was from 1906, so it predated T206 and T205, and I just thought it was so special. And anyway, it's around a $200 card. So congratulations, Warren. Thank you, everybody, for participating. All right, let's go back to bashing PSA. What else do we have here?
You got to crack that out now, Warren, because it's in a PSA slab.
So resubmit.
All right. Where are my other notes? We talked about Adam. Oh, the one thing I really wanted to talk about was your idea, Greg, because I freaking love this idea. Because extending the national. Talk about that. Because I'm totally on board with that. I know it might be a little inconvenient for dealers, but if you could spread that out over more days where people were just
Yeah.
going 3 days at a time or whatever, man, that would thin it out, I think. Talk about
Well,
that.
here was my thought process is when, Disneyland, all right, everything's an analogy for me. But Disneyland right now, if I were to go down there, it's off peak. And so it's going to close at 8 p.m. It's going to open at 9. It's going to close at 8. But in Labor Day weekend, it opens at 8. It's open till midnight. It's open longer because there is a demand for it. The National right now is so overcrowded. I mean, it took me an hour and a half to get out of the parking lot last year on the first night. And they seemed surprised that might be a problem when there was one way out. And so my thought process was, why not make it, instead of, Wednesday to Sunday, make it Wednesday, just try to Tuesday and see what happens. And you could have a couple, and Dan's already shaking his head, we'll get to you in a sec. But my thought process is this. You spread it out a little bit, and then you have some sort of themes to it. Like you can say to all those dealers that are getting aced out, there's like a layover day, right? So maybe you go Wednesday to Sunday, Monday's off, and then it goes Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. So there's a day for the switch out. Everything's set up. You just move some dealers load out, some dealers load in, and maybe those newer dealers, because this year it was smaller, and so it was mostly vintage guys, because those guys have been on the list forever, right? So those guys have first crack at it, and that's why the main room was all the vintage guys. And the second room, who had the later picks on the tables, were all the newer guys. Well, this way, you get some of those guys in. So then what it does is it creates, it's like the first half of the week is more the vintage, and the second half of the week is when all the modern guys are going to be there. And you can still revolve it around your group. If I found out all my buddies were going to still go Wednesday to Saturday, I'm still going Wednesday to Saturday. But it just gives a little bit of more opportunity. That's my thought.
Well, I think, Dan, before you go off, I think it solves a few problems. Number one, and this is a good problem to have. Let's face it. The hobby's so big, and there's so many people going that there's really, how many venues can even handle us anymore, right? So it solves that problem. All the people that are bitching about the bathroom situation, it could help solve that problem. And then, like you're saying, there are dealers locked out that can't go, and it would solve that problem as well. Dan, what do you say?
I don't think Greg takes it far enough. I just think never-ending national, never-ending card show. We all go out there and we never go home, and that's it.
I'm not proposing a flea market. I'm proposing, what if it was a week of vintage and then the next week of modern? Like, seriously, like, why not? Tell me the negatives here.
It's not. It's an event. All events that are supposed to be special are limited. If you're going to make it like a month or 3 weeks, it's not so special anymore. Nobody
said a month. Nobody said a month or 3 weeks. I said a week to 10 days.
Well, it's already a week.
I think it's a good idea to have it a few days longer, because very few people go for the whole event. Like, a lot of people come in and out, especially on the weekend. But I am not in favor of theming it, though, because a lot of collectors are like me. We collect modern and vintage, and I don't want to have to go twice. I'm not a fan of theming it.
The Sunday at the National is generally a dead day. It may be that the National is a day too long. It should be shorter.
No, but we're trying to resolve the issues of the overcrowding and not being able to park, and taking an hour to get out of the parking lot, and not being able to go to the bathroom. Those kinds of
things. Both logistical problems of the people handling it. The Chicago show is.
But if you spread it out, you would have less people every day.
Yeah.
Right. That's the angle I'm coming from, because we're just running out of venues. What are we going to have, a stadium?
I think the Fanatics Fest failure is kind of instructive when it comes to, sort of trying to make it be too much. Now,
Wait a minute. We should have a stadium.
Yeah.
Plenty of bathrooms, plenty of seating, plenty of food places. They should do it in a stadium. The showroom floor could be on the field of a dome.
Yeah.
Except, well, not the Tampa Dome though. I think that's gone now. But a dome that has a roof, and you have plenty of bathrooms. You have plenty of parking. That's what we need to do. We need to rent out a stadium. Plus, I mean, it's sports cards. What a better place to go.
Mookie thinks that Johnny Bench isn't showing up this year because of the incident.
After the barn door incident.
What was the barn door incident?
So Chris from Missouri, his childhood hero is Chris is in the chat, by the way.
Is he?
Chris from Missouri waits in line. He's with Dan and Mike Moynihan as he's waiting to get his childhood hero's autograph, Johnny Bench. And Chris walks up with this fly open, and Johnny Bench says, "Your barn door is open." And it was on. They got it on video.
Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah, there's another idea I wanted to show. Vintage Dave T. He had. Did you guys recall his idea to create a website? And he said if any of us knew any website developers, and I was like, well, I might know one. It might be a guy in the chat. So to develop a website of information where guys could share information on, awesome dealers that they've dealt with, anything they learn about, I don't know. He didn't go into a whole lot of details, but having some sort of organized, website for collectors to go to, a resource center. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great idea. I think I've heard someone was working on having the dealers ahead of time on a website share their inventory so you could know and where they're going to be. So you could come in and, if you're hunting certain cards, you could know where to go. And it can all be done right now with what's out there, the technology. It would be a decent amount of work, but I think it's a good idea. Yeah. And I mean,
one of the most,
so there's probably a lot of collectors out there that are like we used to be, where that don't know anybody. Maybe they go by themselves. Maybe this could be a way. They're not on YouTube. They could connect with people ahead of time and have some people to hang out with.
Well, so one of the best resources out there for collectors, and really only like the older vintage guys really use it and know about it, is Net 54, right?
Yeah.
But that's a message board. Like for me, I hate those things. I absolutely despise them. I mean, in this modern era, having an old-fashioned message board just seems it's like when you're reading responses and everything. It is, I don't know. I don't go on there often. I just think it's antiquated. I think we could do better on a website. You could have live chat. I am in right there, stuff like that.
The issue is, I mean, there's a lot of what he was talking about already out there. There's what's it called? Trading card database. There's, there's pre-war cards. There's Cardboard Connection. There's Old Cardboard. There's Net 54. There's all of this stuff. It exists. And, if you saw my favorites list under baseball cards, you'd be like, oh, there's like hundreds of websites. The problem is they all do like a little niche thing. So I think the good part was to try to sort of bring that all together. And so, the problem is, of course, if Adam does this for a living, he's not going to do it for free. It's a huge undertaking.
Well, yes, and the thing is as a community, we can't do it. Like it would really take a private company. Somebody would have to do this as a business and get advertisers. But on these videos, and it's a shame we can't post pictures. We can't post little videos of us talking or anything. So the interaction is limited here on YouTube. And, people are, no matter how many videos I do on it, no matter how many people I interview, when I show my Mag Pro holders, I get questions. What are those holders? Where do I get them? and series of follow-ups and stuff like that. And no matter what I show, there's always interaction or other people. And having a website where you could do all of that would be wonderful. And, you just have to sell advertising like anything else to the mag pros of the world. Your favorite company, PSA, Fanatics, those kinds of things. But to have a one-stop resource would be really special. Especially if you had live chat. That'd be cool.
I hate PSA, John. I'm an SGC guy, so.
Oh, that's right. Can you get them to sponsor?
Yeah. I've actually never talked to Peter Steinberg. I've talked to SGC guys all the time. What's the guy's name? Brent or Brett. He's the guy you have to speak to about. He's like Peter's second in charge. But
Oh yeah, Brent. Yeah, he's like the one customer service guy.
Yeah.
One more than PSA has.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I think that's who I dealt with in at the National. Was he at the National in Chicago? Do you know?
I don't remember. Well, I actually wasn't in Chicago. I was in Hawaii.
Well, their customer service was exceptional. Rick, told me that they were going to be there, and I had a few cards that were like flipped around, and like a Colgan's chip that was sideways, and a scratched up holder. So I went and I reholdered a few cards.
Oh, that was my other thing. Why is this card horizontal? I'm sorry. Why isn't it vertical? Why can't they make a slab where a 1950 Bowman fits in nice and comfortably? And instead of having this sideways stuff, I don't really like these slabs, honestly. But when it comes to a 50 Bowman, which is basically a square card, this is a 50, right? Yeah. I mean, that could fit, right? Am I crazy?
Yes. No.
Well, Dan,
I never saw one slab that way.
Do some work. They're still using the same slab they came out with 20 years ago. So.
Yeah. Oh, but they changed the flip is different though. So.
Yeah.
Making progress.
So did anybody have anything else on their list that they wanted to bring up? Or did we covered a lot. We covered a lot and solved nothing.
That's your job. Your job as president is to delegate out to other people. And this is just the war room. See,
it isn't, John.
Okay.
It isn't all about salary. It isn't all about the big salary you're getting or all the glory you're getting. It's hard work, this job. So but we think you're up for it.
It's supposed to be
well,
a
you're
sacrifice.
My cabinet, so Greg, you're my press secretary. So we'll schedule a press conference.
Hey,
Dan,
I'm ready
go
for
after
the job.
Scammers. Adam, let's get some publicity out and get this website up.
Okay.
All right. Well,
let me throw this out there. We still have 75 people in the chat. The chat has been on fire tonight, as always. The chat is really the heart and soul of the hobby, as far as I'm concerned. So I've been reading everything, and they've had a fantastic time. So
fantastic.
Well, I could say somebody just said in the chat, a person who I didn't know, John, said, "You can't be hiding in the basement. You got to come upstairs. You got to get out more." Actually, some of my favorite Mangini videos are the ones on the road, like when you go to the stores and the shops, and you went to, was it Boone, North Carolina, and you went in a shop, and some of the best Mangini ones that you were driving and stuff.
Those are fun to do. They're a lot of work, but they're fun. They're fun to do. Like a vlog. Yeah. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for jumping on. I know it's not always convenient, and I truly appreciate you coming on and helping me give a card away to Warren in the CLE. I appreciate it a lot. I appreciate you all for watching and tuning in. And if you made a VR for me, I truly appreciate it. I know, there are a lot of people that don't like VRs. They don't like to do them. They don't like to watch them. So it's special that you went out of your way to make one. I truly, truly appreciate it. Any last words, guys?
I would say thanks for having me on. It was, anytime you get a call to be invited on to any of these sorts of things, it's super fun. And I'm very fortunate that when I've been invited historically and tonight, it's always with some really great guys. So there's 3 really good guys that I had a fun time hanging out with the last hour and a half, and to be included is very cool. So thank you.
Greg got a call. I just got a text.
Well, text,
No.
No, you're 3 special people with
I could do
really
this
good
all the
voices
time.
in the hobby.
Yeah. I am happy to finally have. Wait, where's Adam? Adam's down here somewhere. There he is. Finally, to be on a live stream with Adam, whose channel I've enjoyed for all the time I'm on YouTube. And this guy down here is I'm on with him all the time these days. So, anyway, thank you, John, for the invitation.
Yeah, well, you three, you always get me thinking when I listen, and it's nice to have people on who, you might not have been thinking that way initially, and then people will speak and give you a new way of looking at things, a new perspective. Hell, Dan, maybe you'll go out and start buying relic cards of Babe Ruth.
I'm going to Philly in 2 days. I won't even look at the modern cards. If anything shines, I will run away. I will go right.
I like some shiny cards. I mean, I'm into refractors, man. I caught the refractor bug.
Me too. I like both. I like shiny, non-shiny, all that. So, but yeah, I just want to wrap it up by saying I ranted a few things, tonight. I was probably a little negative, but it is a great hobby because regardless of all the crappy cards they put out, at the end of the day, it's a place where you can make friends, man. It's not easy to do, at least for me at this age. So this is cool.
Hands down. All right, guys. Thanks again. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it.